This story takes me back to the summer of 2004. I was 13 years old and visiting my Oma in a small, quiet village nestled deep in the heart of Bavaria, Germany. Her house was incredible, a converted barn from the late 1800s. It was all dark wood beams, creaky floorboards, and ceilings that seemed to stretch up into the shadows. As charming as it sounds, the place had a reputation. Locals whispered about it being haunted. Stories passed down through generations about strange occurrences and deaths that had happened within its walls long ago. My own family members, my aunt included, had their own tales of things they couldn't explain. Being a teenager, I was a mix of terrified and fascinated by it all. I secretly hoped something spooky would happen, but at the same time, I was praying it wouldn't. The room they gave me was on the second floor, a cozy little space right at the top of the main staircase. From my bed, I had a clear view of the landing and the dark hallway that led to the other rooms. That summer was unusually stormy. It seemed like every other night, the sky would open up and rain would hammer against the old wooden shutters. This one particular night was the worst of all. Thunder was rolling across the hills, so loud it shook the entire house, and lightning would flash, briefly illuminating my room in stark, ghostly white before plunging it back into complete darkness. I'd been trying to sleep for hours, tossing and turning, the sound of the storm keeping me wide awake. And then sometime deep in the night, I heard another sound. It was distinct, different from the storm. It was the slow, heavy creak of footsteps on the wooden staircase. One step, then another, deliberate, coming up. My heart immediately started pounding in my chest. I sat bolt upright in bed, my ears straining to listen over the thunder. Who could be coming upstairs at this hour? My Oma and my aunt were fast asleep in their rooms down the hall. Maybe one of them was getting a glass of water. The footsteps continued their slow, steady ascent. Creak, creak, creak. They reached the top of the stairs, right outside my door, and then they just stopped. The silence that followed was somehow more terrifying than the noise itself. I held my breath, waiting, listening, nothing, just the storm raging outside. After what felt like an eternity, I finally worked up a sliver of courage. I had to know who it was. I slid out from under my warm duvet, my bare feet hitting the cold wooden floor. I tiptoed to my bedroom doorway and peered out into the hallway. There was absolutely no one there. The landing was empty. The hallway was a corridor of pure blackness. A flash of lightning lit up the entire space for a split second, confirming it was vacant. My mind started racing. Was I just hearing things? Was the old house just settling, its ancient timbers groaning under the force of the storm? I tried to convince myself that's all it was. It had to be. Feeling a bit foolish, I scurried back to my bed and dove under the covers, pulling the thick duvet right over my head like a shield. I lay there, my heart still thumping, trying to calm down. For a long while, there was nothing but the sound of the rain and wind. I started to relax, my breathing evening out. I told myself I had imagined it all. Just as I was about to drift off, I decided to take one last peek. I don't know why, I just had to. I slowly, cautiously lowered the duvet just enough so my eyes were uncovered. My gaze fell upon my open doorway, looking out onto the landing. And that's when I saw it, a figure. It was the tall, broad silhouette of a man, completely black, like a shadow cut out of the darkness. It wasn't standing still, it was moving. It walked slowly, deliberately, right past my doorway, from one side to the other, and then disappeared into the shadows of the hall. It made no sound. It was just a silent, dark shape gliding through the night. My blood ran cold. I couldn't breathe. I was completely frozen in terror for a second, my brain trying to process what my eyes had just seen. This wasn't the house settling. This wasn't my imagination. Then the scream that had been trapped in my throat finally ripped its way out. I screamed louder than I have ever screamed in my entire life. I just kept screaming my Oma's name over and over. Within seconds, lights flickered on down the hall, and I heard panicked footsteps rushing toward my room. My Oma and my aunt burst in, their faces filled with alarm. They found me sitting up in bed, hysterical, pointing at the empty doorway and sobbing uncontrollably. Through my tears and gasps for air, I managed to tell them what I saw: the footsteps, the silence, and then the black silhouette of the man walking past my door. I expected them to tell me it was just a nightmare, that I was imagining things. But they didn't. My Oma sat on the edge of my bed, held my hand, and looked at me with a surprisingly calm expression. My aunt nodded knowingly. My Oma just said, "It's okay, my dear. Don't be scared. Even if it was a ghost, the ones in this house are friendly. They're just watching over us." Double quotes. Her calmness was so strange. But somehow it started to soothe my panic. They knew. They had experienced things too. I wasn't crazy. Needless to say, there was no way I was sleeping in that room alone again. Not that night, not ever. They took me into my Oma's room, and I squeezed into the bed between her and my aunt. For the rest of that summer vacation, I slept with them every single night. I never saw the figure again, but I'll never forget the image of that dark silhouette gliding past my door. It's a memory that is burned into my mind, a chilling reminder of that stormy summer in the old Bavarian barn house. Thanks for listening to my story. Be sure to subscribe for more.